I need insulin to stay alive. It's just therapy to keep going.
She was America's sweetheart, the girl who could turn the world on with her smile. But behind Mary Tyler Moore's iconic warmth lurked shocking feuds with the very people who made her famous. From comedy legends she pushed aside to co-stars she treated with icy contempt, discover the actors Mary Tyler Moore couldn't stand, and the bitter fallouts that her famous smile always concealed. Rose Marie. Rose Marie had already been a professional for 40 years when the Dick Van Dyke Show began casting in 1961. She started performing at 3 years old. She survived vaudeville. She mastered radio. She knew comedy timing the way surgeons know incisions. When Carl Reiner cast her as Sally Rogers, one of the lead writers in the fictional Alan Brady Show writers' room, it made sense. She was the veteran. She was cast first.
I did the original 3 pilots with 3 different guys to host it. And we did 3 pilots, one with Bert Parks, one with Sandy Barron, one with somebody else, and then all of a sudden Peter Marshall was the MC, and the best one.
Mary Tyler Moore was hired to play Laura Petrie, the wife, the listener. She was 23. She lied about her age. She had done commercials and small parts. Reiner called her role simple: be the audience, react to Rob Petrie's stories from work. That's not what happened. The show shifted. The writers' room scenes gave way to domestic scenes. The scripts followed Laura Petrie home. The camera followed Mary Tyler Moore's legs. The focus changed. Rose Marie noticed. She went to Carl Reiner directly. She told him they both had beautiful legs, but the audience wanted to look at Moore's legs, she said. Reiner didn't change course. The moment that changed everything was when Rose Marie realized the show was no longer hers. She called Moore a novice in her memoir. She said Moore didn't understand comedy timing. She documented it in her documentary, Wait for Your Laugh. These weren't private complaints. She put them on record. Her daughter, Georgiana Nupi Guy Rodriguez, confirmed it in interviews in 2023 and 2025. There was a little bit of conflict, she said. They never became close. Mary was up and coming. Not, they had a misunderstanding. Not, they worked it out. They never became close. For 5 seasons, Rose Marie and Mary Tyler Moore worked together. They were professional. They were cordial. They smiled for press photos. They were not friends. Rose Marie had been in show business since 1929. She earned her spot. She knew her craft. And she watched a younger woman, hired second, take the show she helped build and make it about something else. The veteran was eclipsed by the ingenue. Rose Marie never forgot that. Neither did her daughter. The judgment was final before the show even ended. So that's what happened when Moore pushed aside a veteran. But the cost wasn't just one relationship. It became a pattern. And the next victim wasn't a rival. It was someone who helped make her second show a legend. Ted Knight. Ted Knight got the role of a lifetime on the Mary Tyler Moore Show in 1970. Ted Baxter was the vain, idiotic, preening anchorman, the buffoon who couldn't read a teleprompter, the narcissist everyone mocked. Knight played him perfectly. America loved Ted Baxter.
Hello? No, Sarah's not home. I'll tell you what I told the last 4 guys who called. I don't know when she'll come back. Why would I know? I'm her father. Okay, I'll take a message. Hold on while I get a pencil.
That was the problem. By season 3, Knight went to co-creator Alan Burns. He was crying. He said he couldn't play Ted Baxter anymore. Everybody thought he was stupid, he told Burns. Everybody treated him like a schmuck. He wasn't talking about the cast. He was talking about strangers, viewers, people on the street who saw Ted Knight and believed they were meeting Ted Baxter. The moment that changed everything was when Knight realized the character had replaced the man. He won 2 Emmys for the role. Outstanding Supporting Actor in a Comedy Series. Critics praised his timing. The industry recognized his talent. And still, people treated him like an idiot. Mary Tyler Moore wrote about it in her memoir, After All. She praised Alan Burns for giving Knight a pep talk. She acknowledged his frustration. But the show went on. Knight kept playing Ted Baxter, season after season. The torment continued. TV historians confirmed it later. Knight genuinely hated what the role did to him. Not the work itself, not the scripts, what it did to his life, his reputation, his career. He had no personal animosity toward Moore. This wasn't about her, but the dynamic was clear. She was the star, the beloved Mary Richards. He was her newsroom's lovable idiot. That's how America saw them. That's how casting directors saw them. Knight couldn't escape it. Other roles dried up or became versions of the same fool. The typecasting was complete. He died in 1986, 52 years old. He'd played Ted Baxter for 7 seasons, from 1970 to 1977. 9 years after the show ended, he was still known for nothing else. The character that made him famous destroyed him. Knight knew it, Moore knew it, Burns knew it, but no one stopped it. But this pattern didn't start on the Mary Tyler Moore Show. It started years earlier, when a creator made a choice that set everything in motion. To understand why Moore kept getting away with it, you need to see who gave her the power in the first place. Carl Reiner. Carl Reiner created the Dick Van Dyke Show based on his own life, his marriage, his work as a comedy writer, his experience in television. The show was personal. Rob Petrie was Carl Reiner. Laura Petrie was supposed to be his wife. He cast Mary Tyler Moore, 23 years old, minimal experience. She would play the wife who listened, who reacted, who anchored the home scenes while the real comedy happened in the writer's room.
Well, you know, right after the Show of Shows, I had 9 years with Sid Caesar doing sketches. Sketch comedy disappeared until Carol Burnett brought it back.
Brought it back in the 70s,
But
yeah.
I was being offered situation comedies. Westerns were the big things at the time. And so I read a few of these, and they weren't very good. And my wife, in her infinite wisdom, said, "Why don't you write one?"
Rose Marie was already cast, the veteran, the professional, the one who knew the business. Then Reiner started shifting the show toward Moore. Rose Marie went to him directly. She challenged him. Her daughter confirmed it. Obituaries documented it. She confronted Reiner about Moore's rising star power, about the camera time, about the focus moving away from the writer's room. Reiner snapped back, bluntly. He was the creator. This was his vision. Moore was his choice. The moment that changed everything was when Reiner made it clear he would choose his ingenue over his veteran. Rose Marie had loyalty. She had experience. She had decades in the business. None of it mattered. Moore had something else. She had Grant Tinker, her husband, a producer. Tinker backed the shift. He supported making Moore the centerpiece. The power play wasn't just creative. It was strategic. The old guard noticed. They resented it. Rose Marie wasn't alone in her frustration, but Reiner held firm. The show would be what he wanted. Moore would get what she needed. Years later, Reiner praised Moore's grace in interviews. He called her professional, talented, the perfect Laura Petrie. He never mentioned the friction. Pilato's biography told the truth. The production tensions were real. The division was clear. Loyalty versus ambition. Veterans versus the rising star. Reiner chose ambition and took Moore as his cash cow. Reiner knew what he was doing. He did it anyway. The loyalty was never mutual. So that's how Moore got protected early in her career. But protection from a creator is one thing. What she did when she had full control is another. Because by 1980, Moore didn't need anyone's permission anymore. And that's when the coldness stopped being professional and became personal. Timothy Hutton. Mary Tyler Moore took the role of Beth Jarrett in Ordinary People in 1980. Beth was cold, emotionally unavailable, a mother who blamed her surviving son for her favorite son's death. It was the opposite of everything Moore had played before. No warmth, no smile, no sweetness.
Dad, I quit the swim team.
What?
Carol thought I knew. Of course, why wouldn't I? It happened over a month ago.
On set, Moore stayed in character. Entertainment Weekly documented what happened. Moore was cold, snobbish, and uncommunicative toward Timothy Hutton. He played Conrad, her grieving son in the film. He was young. It was one of his first major roles. Moore kept her distance. Deliberately, completely. She called it method acting, preparation, staying in the emotional space of a woman who couldn't love her own child. The moment that changed everything was when the distance stopped being acting and became the relationship. Hutton was playing a teenager desperate for his mother's affection. Moore gave him nothing. Not between takes, not off camera. The coldness wasn't just in the scenes, it was constant. The film worked. Hutton won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Moore received her only Academy Award nomination. Ordinary People swept the Oscars with 4 wins, including Best Picture. But the method was the relationship. The performance was built on genuine alienation. Moore treated a young co-star with calculated coldness for months, and everyone called it brilliant. Directors praised her commitment. Critics called it transformative. The Academy nominated her. No one asked what it cost Hutton to be treated that way. No one questioned whether method acting justified making a young actor feel genuinely rejected by his on-screen mother. The success validated the approach. 4 Oscars. Career-defining performances. Moore got her dramatic credibility. Hutton got his breakthrough role. The method worked. That doesn't mean it was right. Moore made a choice. Stay cold. Stay distant. Make it real by making it hurt. She got her Oscar nomination. The line between acting and cruelty disappeared. No one stopped her. The method worked in film. Moore got her Oscar nomination. But there's a difference between calculated cruelty that wins awards and genuine failure that exposes limits. And Moore's next collaboration proved that even America's sweetheart couldn't succeed everywhere. Neil Simon. Neil Simon was America's most successful playwright when he adapted The Goodbye Girl into a musical in the 1970s. Mary Tyler Moore was America's sweetheart. 2 hit sitcoms, Emmy Awards, television royalty. She wanted to prove herself on Broadway.
Yeah, I'm not
That's something I've never quite figured out, where it comes from, why I have the ability to sit down and to think of something funny very quickly. One could go on trying to solve it for years, and I say I better just accept it and not look too deeply into why.
Simon Castor. It should have worked. The production never made it to opening night. It closed in previews, a Neil Simon musical with a television star, and it failed before Broadway ever saw it. Pilato's biography documented what happened behind the scenes. Simon clashed with Moore over direction, over execution, over everything. The moment that changed everything was when Simon realized Moore couldn't stop being Mary Richards. She was at the height of her TV fame. The Mary Tyler Moore Show was still on the air. America knew her as warm, relatable, perfectly timed comedy. That persona followed her to the theater. Simon needed something else. Musical theater demands a different skill set. Live performance, projection, the ability to shift and adapt in real time. Moore couldn't make the transition. The difficulties weren't about effort, they were about capacity. Simon's frustration grew. Moore was a perfectionist who couldn't deliver what he needed. He was a perfectionist watching his vision fail. Creative differences became irreconcilable. Moore couldn't escape her own shadow. Simon couldn't work around it. The musical closed, quietly, before it could become a bigger disaster. For Moore, it was a rare failure, a black mark on an otherwise golden career. Proof that television success didn't guarantee theatrical success. For Simon, it was a waste. Time, energy, faith in a star who couldn't deliver outside her medium. Two perfectionists, both accomplished, both respected. Neither could make it work. The production failed. The collaboration failed. The disappointment was mutual and permanent. Moore went back to television. Simon moved on to other projects. They never worked together again. The musical theater dream died in previews. Some limits can't be overcome, even by America's sweetheart. Simon learned that the hard way. So that's what happened when Moore failed. But the pattern goes deeper than you think, because even her most iconic partnership, the one that made her a star, started with doubt. Doubt that was never fully resolved. Dick Van Dyke. Dick Van Dyke was 35 years old when Carl Reiner cast him as Rob Petrie in 1961. Mary Tyler Moore was 23. She told them she was older. She lied about her age to get the role of Laura Petrie, Rob's wife. Van Dyke knew something was wrong immediately. She looked too young. She seemed too inexperienced. The chemistry felt forced. He couldn't see her as his wife. The doubt consumed him.
For laughter, I hope for making people laugh for 75 years. I've been in the business 75 years. I can't believe it, and that I'm still here and performing. I'm looking for work if anybody's in. I said I invited everybody to my memorial.
The official Dick Van Dyke Show book documented what happened next. Van Dyke lost 5 pounds from stress before the pilot even filmed. 5 pounds. From worry about his co-star. FandomWire confirmed the casting was controversial from the start. Not just with Van Dyke, with the network, with the creative team. Everyone had concerns. The moment that changed everything was when Van Dyke realized he was stuck with a choice he never believed in. The pilot went forward. Moore played Laura Petrie. Van Dyke played her husband. The network picked up the show. He warmed to her eventually, but the initial doubt was documented. The weight loss was real. The stress over the controversial casting came from somewhere genuine. Van Dyke thought she was too young. He was right, she was, and she lied to hide it. The show became a hit. They became icons together. 5 seasons. Cultural impact. Television history. That doesn't erase the beginning. Van Dyke's body reacted to the stress before his mind could rationalize it. 5 pounds gone. Worry eating at him during the most important pilot of his career. He eventually accepted her. He worked with her. He praised her. But acceptance isn't the same as being right from the start. The doubt was there first. The praise came later, after success made it necessary. Van Dyke made it work because he had to. The show succeeded despite his reservations, not because they disappeared. He learned to work with Moore. He never said the casting was right from the beginning. That doubt lived beneath the surface for 5 seasons. But at least Van Dyke learned to work with Moore. The real test came decades later, when Moore reunited with the co-star who knew her best, and even 20 years of history couldn't save that collaboration. Edie Asner. Ed Asner and Mary Tyler Moore made television history together. 7 seasons on The Mary Tyler Moore Show. Asner played Lou Grant, the gruff news director. Moore played Mary Richards, his employee and friend. They won Emmys. They had chemistry. They were part of television's greatest ensemble cast.
Mary was the most unbelievable star I'd ever worked with. The generosity, the delight at other people's work, performance. Never demonstrated jealousy. or peak that somebody.
That was 1970 to 1977. In 1997, they reunited for a TV film called Payback. Moore publicly expressed frustration with the production. She didn't wait. She didn't stay silent. She disowned the project entirely. Not after it aired. Not after reviews came in. During production, while working with Ed Asner, her beloved co-star, the man who played Lou Grant, Moore made it clear that even history together meant nothing. 20 years after the Mary Tyler Moore Show ended, she couldn't work with Asner professionally. Creative tensions, production problems, frustrations she felt compelled to share publicly. She disowned Payback completely, a project with her most famous co-star, and she wanted no association with it. This wasn't Rose Marie, a veteran she competed with. This wasn't a young Timothy Hutton she kept at distance. This wasn't Neil Simon, a collaborator she disappointed. This was Ed Asner, Lou Grant, part of her legacy, and she publicly rejected working with him. The tensions indicated something deeper, late career problems, professional friction that even shared history couldn't smooth over. Moore had spent decades building a reputation as gracious, professional, America's sweetheart who could work with anyone. Payback revealed the truth. When she was unhappy, she said so, publicly, even if it meant disowning a project with Ed Asner. The film exists. Their reunion is documented. Her rejection of it is part of the record. After everything they built together, after Lou Grant and Mary Richards became television icons, Moore couldn't get through one TV movie without expressing public frustration. Some working relationships have expiration dates, even the beloved ones. Moore didn't protect Asner's feelings. She didn't protect their shared legacy. She disowned the work and moved on. 20 years of history meant nothing when the current project disappointed her. Mary Tyler Moore turned the world on with her smile. But behind that smile were fractured relationships, discarded collaborators, and co-stars left cold. She chose ambition over loyalty, method over kindness, her vision over everyone else's comfort. She built an empire. She earned her place in history. But at what cost to those who helped her get there? Was her relentless drive necessary for greatness? Or did America's sweetheart simply not care who she hurt along the way? You decide.